Hi, my name is Sophie and I'm here with Viva at the Vegan Camp Out in Nottingham, which is very exciting. It's the third year this has been taking place, and I'm here with Dr Neal Barnard. Neal, how are you finding the camp out so far?
It's great. It's huge. It's amazing. When I pulled up here, it's tents as far as the eye can see. So I think our work may be nearly done. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but there's a lot of people here.
So you're giving a talk soon, is that right? And shortly, what are you going to... In fact, actually first, why don't you tell us a little bit, for those who may not be as familiar with your work, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, I'm from the U.S., Washington, D.C., and I run a group called the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And what we bring to this cause is doctors, lots of them. We have about 12,000 doctors. And we promote preventive medicine, but that really means getting our diet together, which really means getting the animals off the plate and the plants on. We also do research studies. We're very busy testing how vegan diet or variants of it will help people with diabetes and other conditions. And then we also are politically active, where we are twisting people's arms in Washington and elsewhere to do a better job of promoting healthy diets. So those are things that we do.
So would you like to tell us a little bit about what your talk is going to be about today?
I am going to talk today all about cheese. And the reason I'm going to do that is years ago we were doing a research study. It was on diabetes. And we used a totally vegan diet for people with diabetes. And they did great. You know, they lost weight and their cholesterols came down. Their blood sugars fell. They needed less and less and less medicine. It was just life-changing. However, I kept hearing from people saying, the one food I really miss, it wasn't meat, it wasn't chicken, it wasn't fish, it wasn't the ice cream, it was cheese. And I thought, what the heck is that about? So I started looking into it, and I decided that cheese is fattening, that it causes a lot of health problems, and that it's surprisingly addictive. So I wrote a book about it called The Cheese Trap. And I thought, here's a whole bunch of vegans. When they go home, everybody in their family or whatever who's not vegan, their biggest stumbling block is cheese. So we're going to talk about cheese, what it does to health, why it's addicting, and I'm going to say a couple of words about the animals too.
I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, to do with the hormones in cheese, which is why it's addictive, because there's something in hormones in cows' milk that is designed to make that baby want to go and drink more of it. So it is an addictive hormone, because obviously that calf will need to keep drinking the milk to make the calf grow. But then when humans consume it, it has the same addictive qualities. Is that correct?
You know, isn't it funny? People think of milk as just this white fluid that's got some calcium in it that goes great on cornflakes. The fact of the matter is, it came out of a living, breathing animal who happened also to be pregnant. This is a fact that's missed on a lot of folks, but Biology 101, a cow does not make any milk until she has given birth. To give birth, she is impregnated, and so the farmers on every dairy operation in the world artificially inseminate the cows once a year. And a cow's pregnancy is about 9 months, similar to a human pregnancy, and they keep them pregnant all the time. So 9 months out of every 12, they're pregnant. While the cow is pregnant, the amount of estrogen builds up and up and up and up and up in the blood. It gets into the milk, and if you take a pail of milk later in the pregnancy and compare it with early in the pregnancy, any laboratory can tell the difference. There's that much estrogen in it. When you turn it into cheese, the estrogens go along with all that fat, so it's concentrated in cheese. And then how many kids today are eating cheese pizza every day, and cheese sandwiches and little bits of string cheese and so forth? And we have seen it's affecting fertility. We believe it's connected to cancer rates as well, and to worse survival in people who have cancer already, and lots of other health issues. And the addicting part, forgive me for this long-winded question, but just one last thing. In the dairy protein, there is a little sequence of amino acids that's, the protein is called casein, C-A-S-E-I-N. And this little amino acid sequence pops out in your digestive tract, and it's an opiate. It's a preformed opiate, right from the cow's milk, and it goes to the brain, and it's a narcotic, just like heroin or morphine. Not as strong, but it's strong enough to bond the baby with the mother. And Mother Nature never thought that an adult human would find it, but we did. And so I think that's the reason people get hooked on cheese.
Wow, that's incredible. So moving on from that, I don't know how many vegan festivals you go to in the States or how many you have been to, I assume. But there's obviously this vegan movement is is really taking off, and it's amazing to see the growth in just the past few years. I'm sure you've been aware of it, and it's so exciting. I love it. However, so I organise the vegan events at these for Viva, and I go to vegan festivals all the time. And there is such a movement of not just vegan food, but vegan junk food. And I don't know, you may have noticed everywhere, most of the stalls here. And I do these events all the time. I'm like, I just want some salad. And there's pizzas and burgers. And, you know, I think it's really great that that stuff's out there for the people who maybe miss it or think they need to go without those foods. But I'm just curious as what's your thought on the vegan junk food kind of movement?
Well, it's a sign of success. It's a sign of technology being able to, you can replace everything nowadays, but my word for it is methadone. In other words, when a heroin addict is trying to come off in the clinic, they give them a little methadone that kind of helps them to deal with their addiction. So if you've got vegan ice cream, I think that's kind of your methadone. It's your way to kind of to break free from the addiction.
It's my downfall.
Well, the way I think of it is a bridge. You know, for some people, that's their bridge. Instead of a meat burger, I'll have the veggie burger. Instead of meat bacon, I'll have veggie bacon. Fine, you know, go ahead and do that. But eventually, people often find they want to eat more simply, more healthfully. More just vegetables and fruits and beans and whole grains and simple stuff. But I think it's good that those things are there to help people bridge.
Great. Yeah, outside of the vegan movement, I've heard, something I find is a bit frustrating, but I keep hearing about the paleo diet. And people say, oh no, but this is the healthiest diet. And this is their argument of, oh no, but it's nothing processed, I'm following the paleo diet. What is your response to that? Just so other people know what to say or how to talk about it. Yeah.
The paleo diet, I think, is for men who aspire to have good rock-solid abs and to be on the cover of Men's Health magazine someday. At least that's what they're hoping. They're nowhere near that, but they think that if they eat the paleo diet, maybe one day they will have the body of a caveman. They're often disappointed to discover that does not occur. I have to say, there's one thing good about the paleo approach. Well, before I get to that, let me maybe describe what it really is for people who have just heard it. The paleo diet is based on this mythology that the diet that we should eat is before we figured out how to plant anything. So we didn't know how to plant grains or vegetables or an orchard. And so we're going way back before technology. But after we figured out how to make arrowheads so we could kill animals. So it's this narrow band in time that we're going to live in. And we're going to call this Paleolithic. And so that must be our natural diet. Now, there's one thing good about that, is that dairying is way later. So they don't consume dairy. That's good. That's a very good thing. And there's a lot of junk food they won't say no to because that's more modern as well. However, the fact that it's based on meat was not part of our diet prior to the Stone Age. And if you look at the other great apes, who, whether we like it or not, we are great apes like chimpanzees and gorillas and orangutans and bonobos. And if you look at them, not only do they not consume dairy at all, they don't consume meat either for the most part, with very few exceptions. And they're very big on fruit, things they can pluck with their hands. And so vegetation is what our bodies are designed for. And for anyone who doesn't believe it, we do head-to-head tests of plant-based diets and look at what happens to your weight or your cholesterol or your arteries or your diabetes or your cancers all the way down the line. And the plant-based people do better in every single way, and that's because that's the diet that we are designed for.
Okay, so going from paleo, obviously, another big thing in the vegan movement has been the raw vegan movement. So something that I've read a bit about, and I hear some mixed reviews, but people who are living an entirely raw vegan diet, what do you think about that? Is it as beneficial as people say?
I think there is a lot to be said for raw foods. I mean, let's face it, when we first set out on planet Earth, we didn't have sterno or ovens or anything. I mean, we were eating raw food. And so I think to have lots and lots of raw food in the diet is a really good thing. But I have two caveats, I might say. One is that not everything goes well raw, like broccoli or cauliflower. If they're not cooked, their digestibility is not very good, and same with beans, obviously. I mean, try eating dry beans. Good luck. You got to cook them. The other caveat I have is I'm not sure which foods are the best, which raw foods. And what I mean is, I'm from Washington, D.C. I grew up in North Dakota. I know that's not where people began. So anything that's around there is probably not our original food. Human beings came from probably Northeast Africa. And we had the bad judgment to leave there and go elsewhere on the world. But whatever foods were natural to that area, 1 million years ago or 2 million years ago, those are, or whatever, those are probably the foods that would be natural for us, in the same way as the foods that are in Kenya or Tanzania would be natural for a chimpanzee. But culture has paved all that over, so we don't really know. So the foods have gotten all kind of mixed up. But I think when people try different foods and see how their body reacts, they're going to do okay. The simple rules that are going to keep you out of trouble: have a variety of foods, especially vegetables, lots of fruits. Now, if you're raw, you probably wouldn't have grains, but you can sprout grains, and the same thing with legumes and beans. You can sprout them too. Make sure you have a source of B12. I would supplement that, and then you're going to be okay.
Great. So for anyone who would like to know more about your work, has specific questions about certain health issues, or would like to direct their friends who would like to know more, would you like to tell us, what websites or books or anything more about your work?
Yes. Anything I ever thought was important, I put into a book. And if you look on any book sales website like Amazon or any others, you'll see lots of them, which I hope people enjoy. Our website at the Physicians Committee is pcrm.org, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, pcrm.org. And one feature that we have is a 21-day vegan kickstart, where even the most skeptical person who says, I'll try it, but only for 3 weeks, they will get totally hooked. It's free. We're not selling anything. So at pcrm.org, you'll see the kickstart. It's in English. It's in Spanish. It's in Mandarin. It's in Japanese. You can have fun with it. And if anybody happens to be in Washington, D.C., come by our clinic. The Barnard Medical Center has a clinic with doctors, nurses, dietitians who will give you a prescription if you need it, but they're going to do everything they can to help you to change your diet in a good way so that maybe you'll never need that prescription after all.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I think it's so frustrating that so little doctors will ask you what you eat, what's your diet like. You go and have all these problems and they just prescribe you medicine rather than often looking at the source. I think that seems to be a very common problem. Do you think it's improving? Do you think that's, yeah?
It's going in two different directions. Medicine overall is getting busier and faster, and take a pill and get out of my office and da-da-da. That trend is continuing, unfortunately. However, the number of doctors who are going in a very different direction that's growing too. And at our clinic, patients come in, and the doctor doesn't necessarily need to spend a lot of time, but does need to say, you've got diabetes, a low-fat vegan diet is exactly what you need. And then the dietitian is there to spend an hour with the patient just planning out the menus and the recipes, and then you bring in their reluctant spouse, and they kind of sort it out together. And we also have classes that people can attend every week forever for free. It doesn't cost them anything. And the patients just love it because we're not pushing them into medicines and side effects. If they need medicine, we'll provide it. But we do everything we can to use the body's natural ability to heal.
Wow, that's really amazing and so refreshing to hear. Thank you so much for joining me today, and good luck with your talk, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the camp out.
Well, good luck to you. And I want to say a big shout out and thank you to everybody at Viva, because you've been role models of really how to do things right. And I've been a big fan for a long time. So thank you for including me.
Oh, thank you so much. It was lovely to meet you.